Yes, I wanted to follow up on what I said before, that there is no inner language. I know. you, you can't, I can't stop talking about it. It is something so exciting that it is really true that there is no inner language. And it is so interesting that everybody believes that there is inner language and that I am apparently the only one who is able to say it, who is able to admit it, because everybody should know that there is no inner language. But I'm admitting it. So it is also a matter of admitting that what we have been saying was wrong, a matter of admitting that what we were believing was wrong. Anyways, I don't have that problem. I don't have to say that what I said was wrong and that I what I believed was wrong. I do not believe anything, and I say everything. That's an interesting statement, right? I do not believe anything, and I say everything. that's that's how it is in embodied language, you know. So I know there is more to be said about the fact that there is no inner language, and I am going to say it, even though I haven't yet said it. I've said some things about it, but there's more to be said. I know that. That's why I have this sense, yeah, this inclination. I know that my inclination is correct. This is something that I have also uh, learned, or become accustomed more to with my embodied language, that my inclinations are always correct. I have always been I've always been correct in recognizing what is disembodied language and what is embodied language. Even though you could say uh, I was myself still having problems, or yeah, or occasional lapses in my own in my own way of talking, that other people could say, well, but aren't you having disembodied language then? Yes, I was. And I have no problem admitting it. Yeah. So, but that's very different from other people who cannot admit that, and they cannot speak about that. I can, always. And that's so different. And that is because, yeah, my basic intuition about what embodied language is always correct. I don't I don't want to continue with disembodied language. That's another aspect of it. I want to continue with embodied language. So that's another motivation to overcome my own problems. Do you see what I'm saying? And once you recognize for yourself that you too want to have embodied language rather than disembodied language, that very motivation is helping you in so many different ways. And again, it deals with overt language. Yeah, I've just tossed a whole bunch of my old writing away. I had boxes full of papers that I had written, and it was all handwritten, okay? And I've just tossed it away. And it feels great. It feels great to get rid of old stuff. And it also feels great to carry on with what is new. That's all part of embodied language. And all of that is based on the fact that there is no inner language. There's no language that I hang on to. These boxes or these stacks of paper that I was having on my table, they're gone. I've dumped them away. Yeah. I make have them for a while, but I don't hold on to it. I don't have, I also made many audio tapes. I've all just thrown them away, all these audio tapes. And yes, the only thing that remains are my YouTube videos. And I'm not gonna erase these. I'm just, if somebody wants to erase them, they can go ahead. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna leave them for eternity. And also my X account, I'm not gonna quit it either. All the things that I've posted on my X account and my conversations with Croc. Yeah, the AI, the artificial intelligence. Yeah, I enjoy that. I like to keep that. It's nice that people can just go to that if they want to. It's a good public archive, if you will, of what this whole thing is. This thing about embodied language versus disembodied language. Yeah. But as I have been saying and continue to say, I am so intrigued by the fact that there is no inner language and that everything can be said, everything can be written, everything can be heard, everything can be read. And I've read it, I've heard it. And it's great. And if you have done that too, you will know that you don't have any inner language. It's such a nice thing, yeah, to know that and to rest in that. Yeah, I'm just gonna rest in that. I had a very emotional day yesterday, and I still feel kind of recovering from that. Yesterday was the day that my father was cremated, and the whole day I was so emotional, even though I was at work. But I still did my job very well. I don't believe anybody really noticed. I was just giving demos of a little candy, which is called yogis. Yeah, probiotic strawberry yogis. And people could just eat these little candies with probiotics in it, and it tastes like strawberry. And people really like them, or most people like them. They want a free sample. So I give all these samples away, and I was selling a whole bunch of these bags of stuff. Yeah. But as I was saying, I was I'm still sort of like today. I kind of feel like, okay, today I'm kind of back to normal again from this process of mourning my father's loss. I was very emotional yesterday, and so I'm now going to rest. That is also why I do this. I do this, of course, for myself, but I do this also to let myself once more know, and as often as needed know, that I can rest by speaking about it. I can rest in the truth that sets me free, that I have no inner language. Isn't that something? Yeah. And I feel so blessed. I feel so grateful. Yeah. I feel cleansed by this experience of my father's passing. And it has allowed me to to let go of so much. And I'm grateful to my father also for who he has been, and what he has meant to me. Yeah. And yeah, everything that I have lived through has brought me where I am now without inner language. I remember. I once had a sort of a argument with my father, and in this argument, I already said to him, that I didn't have inner language, that I wasn't thinking anything. I was just saying something. And my father was really stunned by the fact that I was just saying what I was saying. And he was sort of almost like freaking out that there was nothing that he could do to stop me, or to refute me, or to, because I had just said what I wanted to say. And yeah, I remember also in many of the arguments that I've had with my dad that I always, I was supposed to feel bad about it. I was made to apologize for my bad behavior. I was punished for it. I was, um considered to be disobedient or impolite, or I was considered to be a rebel, or I don't know, uh, problematic. Yeah, I was always considered to be the black sheep of the family, so to speak, because I said things. But I always have felt good about what I said. I have never actually really repented anything I said. I've never regretted anything that I've said. I've always said what I said because I wanted to say it. And I'm still doing that. And yes, sometimes I've said things because I felt, compelled to say it, or almost forced to say it, or I felt, you know, obsessed about it, or whatever, that I had to say it. I felt like, no, I had to say it, and I did. And I don't regret any of it, because everything is said in embodied language. And even though I wasn't fully having embodied language back then, I was already having embodied language, and I was already on my way to having embodied language. And I was already also knowing, many, many years ago, I already knew that I didn't have inner language. It was just that my old history of conditioning with disembodied language made me misinterpret what it is like to be without language. Yeah. So, so what everybody believes to be meditation, yeah, is kind of like a state without language. Yeah. But that is not what people believe meditation to be, is not what it is. People have a completely weird understanding of what it is to be without language. People, so you can of course be really calm, and you can be really peaceful, but that is not the same as to be without language. And to be without language is something completely different, because that means that language has never existed inside of you. To be without language means that you also obviously have said what you wanted to say, what you could say, what you needed to say, what you felt like saying. And you've written about it too. You've read it, you've heard it, you've said it. And yes, your um, your satisfaction with what you have said, your result also of what you have said. Yeah. So where you are going and where you find yourself after you've said what you've said is very important. There's always a result of what you have said, and that result is moving you forward. That result is the positive outcome of your actions. And if you keep having embodied language, then you keep having behavior which fits with your embodied language. If you keep having disembodied language, you keep having behavior which fits with disembodied language. So all the other behavior which has nothing to do with language, yeah, when I ride my bicycle, that is not anything having to do with language, yeah, um, then, yeah, or there's many other things that I do when I cut I trim the bushes in my garden, yeah. I just bought a new trimmer, and I feel really happy about that new trimmer because it trims the bushes so nicely. But it has nothing to do with language. So there's other things besides uh, dealing with language that we do, and we eat food, we take a shower, we work out, all kinds of stuff, and that all that behavior fits with my embodied language. And it is because I do not have inner language. But if you have the illusion of inner language with your disembodied language, then you have all kind of behavior which fits with your disembodied language, which is very conflicting behavior, very troublesome behavior, very problematic. And yeah, you may not want to hear it, or you may not want to talk about it with yourself, not with me and not with some therapist, because that's also not helping. Yeah. The whole world of therapy and psychology is a total farce. It's ridiculous that talking with others is considered to be the key to psychology. Yeah. You know, I was just this morning I was going to the bathroom, and I saw the magazine that was laying on the ground, and I picked it up, and I just leafed through it, and it was a little magazine about the I don't know, some of the magazines that my wife reads, and I read something there about dealing with loss. It was pure coincidence, and it was said there in this article that it really helps in loss to talk with the person that has that has passed away, even though they're not there, and to also write about it. And supposedly that was really good advice or something, because the person who said this and who had dealt with the loss of his own, can you believe that this was a father who had actually dealt with the loss of his own son who had committed suicide, and the whole family was in chaos after that, and the father was going through tremendous sense of loss because his son had killed himself. And so this man was writing about that, and he said that he was part of a grief processing group, and he but he also he talked with his son supposedly, um, and even though the son of course is dead and gone, and and he also wrote about it. He wrote even a book about how to process grief and all that kind of stuff, you know. It's sorry that I have to laugh because I just dumped away boxes full of writings. But the thing here is, what I find so peculiar is that what this man is actually describing is he hasn't talked with his son, he has talked with himself. And he doesn't realize this. Yeah, so this is a very significant difference. Yeah, and he's not talking about what goes on inside of him, his feelings. No, he is just expressing in language what these feelings are, what he is able to say when he expresses himself. And the same goes for his writing. And so the benefits that he's reaping from that is all having to do with the fact that he has finally acknowledged that language. Well, he hasn't really of course, he doesn't have embodied language, but probably in the grief processing group, he has experienced some sort of embodied language where people were really, you know, true to themselves, so to speak, which is not the same as embodied language, as you can eh, recognize, hopefully, because being true to yourself is not the same as listening to yourself while you speak, and speaking in such a way that you say what you want to say with a sound which you like to hear. And listening to yourself while you speak and engaging in embodied language is only true to the extent that you have stopped believing in inner language, that you have stopped this illusion that you can have a conversation inside of you with yourself, which is just totally bogus. That's why people need to be in a grief group. That's why they need to talk with his son, which is no longer there. No, you need to talk out loud with yourself. But no, it doesn't really get to that. As long as you do not have embodied language, as long as you do not make the distinction between disembodied language and embodied language, which is a very fine distinction. Yeah, people keep deluding themselves that they already know what embodied language is, but they don't have it. They don't know what it is. Even not when people die. They just have a little bit of grief and they process that grief, and yeah, maybe they become depressed. Maybe they have issues with unresolved loss or whatever. But it all deals with language. It all deals with the illusion of inner language. Yeah? If people would just listen to this, what I'm saying, it would just help so much. But nobody wants to hear it. Nobody comes to me and say, like, we need to get this, yeah, in front of every psychologist. Embodied language is the key to psychological health. And what I mean by psychological health is not an inner mental health. No, it is verbal health. Verbal health. That is what I'm talking about. That you use your language correctly. If you do not listen to yourself, you use your language incorrectly. And you start imagining things which are false, which are not true. Inner language has never been the case. So, well, that was a good explanation.